Cavalier faithful, welcome back on into the Cleveland Pulse YouTube channel. An interesting upload today. I want to preface the topic by saying no one's hitting the panic button. It's just 5 losses for the Cleveland Cavaliers. 33-5 through 38 games, absolutely still an insane record. 5.5 games up in the Eastern Conference. If you take a look at the standings here today, that 5th seed, the nagging Pacers squad gets to us last night. We get another opportunity to play them tomorrow. Should be interesting, but probably the worst game of the Cleveland Cavaliers regular season last night, falling in that 108-93 loss to the Indiana Pacers. I want to talk loss analysis. We've only had 5 of them. It's easy to distill them, to kind of break them down and to look at what I think the biggest problem is that comes in our rare losses. We're at the point in the season, guys. We learn more through losses than wins at this point. I think Atkinson has done an amazing job. I think the core 4 has taken a huge leap. I think the bench has played really, really well. I think you have 10 competent basketball players on this team who could give you high-quality regular season minutes. You were missing Ty Jerome last night. You see how much of an impact that is. But what do you learn in the losses? That's something that needs to be talked about, because at this point, you really should be the 1 seed. There's a lot of games left to be played. Could you stumble? Could you lose some more games? Absolutely. It's a long NBA season. You're not going to shoot perfectly. And it's just very difficult to, win basketball games when you're only shooting whatever they shot from 3 last night, 25, 26%, 26.8%, 11 from 41. And this team, I think for the better, has put themselves into this mode where they beat you with the 3-point shot. They beat you with the bigs too. So they're not one-dimensional. It's not that they can't win basketball games shooting a low percentage from the 3-point line. It just makes it extremely difficult, obviously, for any offense in this league to really thrive when you're not knocking down threes. It's just how the game is, transforming, transitioning. But what I want to talk about here today, really briefly, as far as the 5 games that they've dropped this season. So let's just to refresh everyone's memory. It's fun. You kind of forget about the losses because there's been so little of them, and it's one of those things where you're never too good. You're never too good of a franchise or having too good of a season to not really learn from the losses. I think, we saw a prime example of this within the last 10 years with the Golden State Warriors, their historic regular season, setting record as far as the best regular season, win-loss record in the league's history, all the way through the playoffs. They had some struggles in the playoffs and then ultimately get up 3-1 on the Cleveland Cavaliers, get a little bit cocky, get a little bit arrogant, and they fold the series, epic 3-game comeback for our Cleveland Cavaliers. That's your case study, okay? That's the trajectory you're on. That is the pace that you want to set and you want to be a part of. You have 5 losses. Are you probably, not going to contend for the regular season win-loss record? They still could, but it's going to be very difficult with 5 losses. And it's just a difficult thing to do anyway. But loss number 1, Celtics, 120-117. That snapped the 15-game winning streak. Losses 2 and 3, back-to-back against the Atlanta Hawks. One was in that NBA Cup group stage game. One was, just another regular season game. 122-113 loss to Miami. And then the 5th loss of the year, 108-93 against the Pacers. I have one topic to talk about here. It's height with aggressiveness, with that extra, layer of athletic wings who are big, athletic bigs who are aggressive, seems to be an issue that's cropping up. And I think it's something that this team can fix. I think it's something this team can change as far as limiting losses in the future. Like I said, it's only 5, still off to an epic season. Let me just break it down for you. Let's start with this game last night. What I did here was take the top 8 players as far as minutes for the games that we lost, and I just wrote down those players' heights. Let's see what stands out here when I, read through some of these numbers. All right, last night, Indiana, Siakam, 6'8", Turner, 6'11", Nembhard, 6'4", Halliburton, 6'5", Mathurin, 6'5", Jarris Walker, 6'7", Shepard, 6'6", Toppin, 6'9". And Halliburton didn't even play in the second half last night. Arguably Indiana's best player. Point guard, facilitator, didn't even play in the second half. Big guards, really big guards for Indiana. Kind of reminds me of Orlando. Orlando, I think at full strength, is still an interesting matchup for this Cavaliers team. You saw it in the playoff series last year that went 7 games. The guards with height could be a weakness for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And aggressive bigs. Aggressive bigs is what is really standing out to me. It's not a knock on Mobley. He's having a great year. He's taking the leap. It's not a knock on Allen. He's having a good year. Could potentially compete for an all-star bid. It just seems like when you have that combination of larger guards and bigs who are actually skilled and aggressive, it seems like the Cleveland Cavaliers struggle like on both ends of the floor. They only give up 108. You could win basketball games giving up 108 points in this modern NBA, but being held to under 100 points for the first time all season, pretty impressive from the Pacers last night. Let's keep it moving. The Heat. Duncan Robinson, 6'7", Highsmith, 6'5", Butler, 6'7", Bam, 6'9", Hero, 6'5", Rozier, outlier at 6'1", Smith is 6'2", and Haney Jaquez at 6'6". So those, I think we match up better with the Heat team. And I think we match up good against every team in the league. Obviously, we have, 33 wins out of 38. It's not like I'm saying we have glaring deficiencies. I'm just saying if we want to self-analyze, look at a weak spot, at a weakness, it would be this. Miami doesn't really have the bigger guards. Hero at 6'5", Scary Terry at 6'1". They're not overly tall. Duncan Robinson, 6'7", Butler 6'7", and this was earlier in the year when they were a little bit less dysfunctional. So I'll give points to them for being able to, beat us. We also don't really play that well in Miami. We really just don't. So lots of interesting factors that could go on there. Let's distill the Hawks games into kind of one 8-man rotation for Atlanta. Trae Young, obviously not a big guy at 6'7", and then they have Rashacer at 6'8", Johnson at 6'8", Capella at 6'10", Daniels at 6'7", Hunter at 6'8", Bogdanovich at 6'5", and Okongwu at 6'10". Bigger wings. The big versatile wings is the talking point for me against a team like Atlanta. I think Atlanta would give us a really, really good playoff series. I think it would be good basketball. Trae Young's got the superstar caliber. You got Hunter on the wing. You got Capella down low. Bogdanovich isn't a small guy. Okongwu at 6'10". I'm just going over what I think is what's interesting to me. Now let's move on to the Boston team, which obviously I still think is the standard for the Eastern Conference. The Cavaliers are putting their foot in the door saying, hey, we're here. We want to be contenders. We want to go to the finals, but I still think the Celtics are the standard. You got Derek White at 6'4", Tatum at 6'8", Horford at 6'9", Holiday at 6'4", Brown at 6'6", Hauser at 6'7", Kada at 7 foot, and Pritchard, the outlier, at 6'1". So your smallest guy outside of Pritchard on that roster is 6'4" Jrue Holiday, who is a defensive mastermind. Pritchard, I think, plays a little bit above his size too. He's a scrappy guy. He's going to get on the court, make sure that he's diving for loose balls, playing hard defense. He plays a little bit taller than 6'1", but it's still those wings. Jaylen Brown is an underrated, he's got an underrated body composition at 6'6". He's a stronger guy. To me, and here's the thing. Am I going to be pounding the table to go out and get a 3-and-D wing who's, 6'6" to 6'8" for us to really be able to make sure that this team culminates together for an end of the season run? I'm not going to be harping on it because I think that the roster and Atkinson has shown us that that's something that us as fans don't need to be talking about. They have such a good win percentage. They have such confident and, competent wins and just complete domination of teams on some night. I'm not pounding the table. Like I said, there's no panic button being hit here. It's just something interesting to point out. Last night, Indy, you saw it all. The Cavaliers' third quarter, worst quarter of the season that they had, 13 total turnovers, and it seems like that's the mark. In 3 of these 5 losses, they've had 12 turnovers or more. 12 turnovers against the Hawks the first game, and then 13 the second game, and then 13 last night. So the full court press work last night. Rick Carlisle brought the aggression. He knew what was going on. Kenny was disgusted in the post-game interview, as he really should have been. It was, kind of just an abysmal third quarter. Easily, like I said, the worst game they've played all year. But to me, the moral of the story is here. You have to learn from your mistakes. You have to learn from your losses, and you have to be able to say, okay, we you might need a different game plan when you come up against a team that has a bunch of guys, a handful of guys who are 6'5" to 6'8". Just might be a different look. You might have to do something differently. You might have to throw away some offensive sets. You might have to, install new stuff into the playbook in order to make sure that you're competent on both ends of the basketball court. But that's really it for me. Comment down below what you think, especially about that Pacers loss last night and just some of the size issues that could be presented for this Cleveland Cavaliers. If they have any issues at all, I think it would be that. And I think it's a small issue that can be changed, can be fixed, can be rectified moving forward and into the rest of the season. But yeah, with that all being said, appreciate you being the pulse of it all. Peace.